Good morning, class. I hope everyone is able to hear me. Good morning, class. Let me just check for the stream and my voice, and on that note, I will begin this class. Good morning once again, everyone. Yes. Let me just check for the stream and my voice. Yes, I am able to hear myself. So definitely I can begin this class straight away. So good morning, everyone. Welcome everyone to Unacademy's YouTube page. We are, of course, India's largest online learning platform. We are also, shall we say, this is our channel. पहले थोड़ा सा introduction. Crack all management exams. So, as the name suggests, we are going to help you with all kinds of management examinations, including the biggest one, which just took place, which is CAT, but not restricted to that. Also, the other upcoming exams such as ZAT, SNAP, TISNET, CMAT, MAT, NMAT, all of these are covered under our course. And of course, some of the names which I mentioned, IFT as well, I should add, you will notice that some of the names which I mentioned, they have general knowledge as one of their components because GK is one of their components. So that is where I come into the picture and I will be helping you guys with general awareness. And as usual, many of you have attended several of my classes in the last couple of months. You would be knowing one of my regular features is the daily newspaper, which I conduct almost every day. So, just as the other days, today as well, I will be conducting the newspaper session. So, welcome everybody to this session. Let me just introduce you guys quickly. We are India's largest online learning platform, which has some of India's finest educators on board. This is a brief profile of myself. My name is Aritro Dasgupta. I've been with Unacademy for more than 5 months now. I'm an MBA in Forest Management from the Indian Institute of Forest Management located in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. The specialization I opted for was conservation and livelihoods. This I finished in the first quarter of 2010. Since then, I've been working non-stop. It's almost 11 years now, so over a decade's work experience in the areas of teaching, training, strategy consulting, executive recruitment, and in content writing. Most of my experience has been in India, but I've also worked in the Middle East and in North America. Rank holders to several national examinations, national level examinations like CAT, CLAT, DUJAT, etc. They have been my students during this period, during the last 5.5 years that I've been connected with the coaching industry. Right. So, what all you will receive as part of the Unacademy platform? One is that, of course, you have daily live classes. So this is our channel. Let me just show this to you. नीचे आपको दिखेगा क्रैक मैनेजमेंट एग्जाम्स. सो इसको आप क्लिक करेंगे. मैं आपको बता रहा था बाकी एग्जाम्स हम कवर करते हैं. राइट साइड में आप देखिए स्नैप एग्जाम, उसकी भी तैयारी होती है. स्नैप इज फॉर द सिम्बायोसिस यूनिवर्सिटी इन ऑल अदर कॉलेजेस. तो उसकी भी हम तैयारी करवाएंगे. तो उसके लिए भी क्लास चल रहा है. यू कैन सी कपल ऑफ पीपल आर वॉचिंग. This is our channel, Crack All Management Exams. So once you click on this, you will get access to all the older classes which have been conducted, including several which I have personally taken. Um, there are live tests and quizzes, of course, on a regular basis. You also have very much a structured course content which is framed at the head office. But of course, not only at the head office, we also add individual value to it. And of course, once you are on board, you receive unlimited access to the classes. This is a list of some of our key educators. You may take a look at their names. Also take a look at their qualifications, their experience, the watch minutes so thus far, and also the number of followers. And I must also tell you, this is a slightly older screenshot. I'm sure the number of followers and definitely the watch minutes would have at least trebled by now. Right, these are the live classes. This is how you can receive the notifications for the different live classes, whoever has enrolled in it. You can even take the advantage of live classes for free because there is an option called special classes which can be taken up for free. There are batches for syllabus completion as well. So how you receive this is there are two kinds of batches. One is specific to a subject. So that's subject specific, and that is done by a single trainer. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, Mr. Shukla, he has his classes on subject. This is just a sample, or it can be for an entire curriculum, and that of course takes you it is taken through by a range of trainers. You can take a look at their names. So that is the other format that we can take it through. I have also launched a batch in October, so you guys may go through them as well. These are some of the advantages you receive. One is that there's a schedule that works very well for you. You can learn anytime, anywhere. I was telling you about missing classes, and even if you missed a live class, you can always see the recordings, as I was just mentioning to you guys. There is no language barrier because we've always made sure that language should be a communicator, not a divider, which is why we are present in several different languages. And language is never a barrier for you guys. 16 different languages to be precise. Now, you can actually interact with your educator to get your doubts cleared. How you do that is on the right hand side, there's something called a chat window, live chat window. तो कोई भी questions हो आपके, कुछ भी doubts हो, कुछ भी query हो, please feel free to ask यहीं पे. और जो अगला point है, which is about live polls, polls भी मैं यहाँ पे conduct करवाऊंगा. I'll be asking you guys questions which you can answer, right? So this is also something that works very well on unacademy.com. So you can actually go through both of them. Right, there are live tests and quizzes as well, which I was already told you. But in addition, after each quiz, you actually receive a detailed report and analysis. This is extremely helpful, and rather, I would say this is critical because it is through these quizzes and the results that you know where exactly you stand vis-a-vis the rest of the competition in the country. In fact, Unacademy mocks, unlike let's say other institutes where you're sitting at one place, here you're competing against students from all over the country, different demographics you're competing against. So whatever scores you're getting, whatever rank you're getting in percentile, it's as close as the real world as it happens. And of course, there are detailed PDFs and learning material which you receive. You can actually download these sessions. This is something which happens very easily. Although today it's a newspaper session, the newspaper itself is your PDF. So I guess there is nothing separate today. Right, so this is the payment criteria. You receive a flat 10% off if you use my code. This is my code. I'll just highlight it once. AD09 इसको यूज करेंगे तो आप 10% छूट पाएंगे. ये 21,000 है, ये 18,900 हो जाएगा. सो मैं बताऊंगा कि आप लोग लॉन्ग टर्म कोर्सेज के लिए जाइए. That is much more beneficial, such as the 12-month or 24 months rather than the short term courses. It's much more beneficial for you guys. Yes, so I guess there is nothing separate today, right? So this is the payment criteria. Right, just have a look at each and every line because that will give you an idea how exactly things can work. And you can take a decision accordingly. Right. I believe you've all gone through this. So, on that note, let me continue with the rest of the class. Right. So this is the newspaper of today, 11th of December 2020. Let me just fetch today's paper. As usual, and has been the trend over the last few months, it's the Hindu which I'll be analyzing, which is your favorite newspaper when it comes to all the entrance examinations. And since I'm showing you guys, let me also show you one more Unacademy ad. I remember कल भी मैंने आपको न्यूज़पेपर में एक दिखाया था and now once again makes me immensely proud to show that there is so much presence of Unacademy in the various newspapers. So there's a session today of the CSC team, so you can actually learn live. Right. So anyway, let's begin with the session. The top news today, as you would expect, is regarding the pharma protests which are taking place all over the country, but especially around Delhi. Now, the farmers' unions have been asked by the government to reconsider the proposal. The government has come up with, some amendments. Several of the ministers, such as the agriculture minister Shri Narendra Singh Tomar and the commerce minister Mr. Piyush Goyal, they've all come up and they have spoken about this thing. Farmer unions are unsure; they want a concrete solution to this thing. Right. The next topic yesterday was also the inauguration of the new Parliament building. There's a new central vista which is being prepared by the central government right now, which will be operational from 2022. It's much larger in terms of the seating area of the parliamentarians. Both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha can now hold many more members after 2022 than the present ones. So the Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, he was present for the inauguration. The ceremony also included the Lok Sabha Speaker Shri Om Birla, also the Deputy Chairperson of the Rajya Sabha Shri Harivansh Rai, um, also the a couple of union ministers such as Mr. Pralhad Joshi and Mr. Hardeep Puri, as well as other members of the union cabinet, the diplomats, and members of parliament. They were among those who were part of it. So there's a spirit of optimism that the prime minister spoke about. A couple more things on it. So it's actually a triangular structure covering total 64,500 square meters. There'll be three main spaces: the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, and the Central Lounge. The theme of the interiors is based on the peacock, which is the national bird. That's at the Lok Sabha. The Rajya Sabha will be shaped like a lotus, which is the national flower, and of course, the Central Lounge, which will be like a banyan tree, which is obviously the national tree in India. Lok Sabha will now be able to accommodate 888 members, while the present one has only 552. Does this mean there will be more number of parliamentarians? That is unsure. Nothing of that sort has as yet been mentioned. The Rajya Sabha will now have 384 seats, up from the present maximum strength of 250. In fact, the Lok Sabha hall will have additional capacity up to 1,272 seats, so that joint sessions of the two houses can be held. Joint sessions of the two houses, they are headed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, which is why the Lok Sabha becomes the host for these events. The national emblem, which is the Ashok Chakra, will also crown the new Parliament building. The Tata Group has got the rights for this construction. Construction workers have already been seen around this area. The total cost is 971 crores, and as I mentioned, it is the Tata Projects which is in charge of the architecture and the construction. The main architect is HCP Design, Planning and Management. That's a architecture firm. Um, so right now, construction work has been stopped after a Supreme Court order, which wants to know regarding the environmental cost of the ongoing project. There's also a completion deadline, which is October 2002. This is in time for the winter session of the 75th parliamentary session of 2000, which will be in 2022. All right, those are a couple of the things. The total COVID-19 cases have crossed 6 lakh mark in the city of Delhi. Now, there's a very interesting move from the United States. This could happen, although it hasn't happened as yet. Facebook, which is obviously one of the world's leading tech giants, they might be forced, as per a recent order, to sell Instagram and WhatsApp. Instagram they acquired for $1 billion back in 2012. WhatsApp they did likewise in 2014, though for a much greater figure that's worth $19 billion. Instagram, of course, leading photo sharing platform, while WhatsApp is a personal chat platform. What is the reason why this has happened? So the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, as well as several U.S. states, they have filed lawsuits against the company. What is the reason? It says buy or bury strategy, which Facebook applies, which leads to rivals being snapped up and smaller company competitors are kept at bay. This is something which goes against the principle of open competition, which the US courts they prefer. So that is what is leading to this particular conflict. So let's see, this is going to be one of the big business news of the year. It could be a very important topic for the upcoming group discussions, interviews, VAT, anything. So do watch out for this space for more details on that. There's a very important UN award which an Indian body has received. That is the Help Age India. Help Age India, you've all heard of it. I remember back when I was almost a toddler, I think in class one or two, I remember in my school, Help Age India had visited for sort of donation. So we were supposed to go to our neighbors' houses, and any visitor at home, we would catch them that you give us some donation in this. And that is something that has we used to collect some amount of money for that. So HelpAge India has now been given a very important UN award, the UN Population Award for 2020 under the institutional category. So the Population Award has several categories. Under the institution, it is HelpAge India, which has won this award. This was actually established, this award, in 1981 by the UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. Right, this is the contributions in the field of population and reproductive health. This award was given to the organization by Mr. Ion Jinga, who is the permanent representative of Romania, the Eastern European country, to the United Nations. HelpAge India becomes the first Indian organization or first Indian to win this award in 28 years. Mr. J.R.D. Tata in 1992 was the last recipient of the same. He won this for this thing. He won it within the individual contributor category. Individual laureate, that's what the category was. So 28 years later, there's an Indian organization. Right, fair enough. Let's move ahead to some of the local pages. I can see somebody else has joined this session, so welcome whoever that is. Do write something because it'll be good to connect. India becomes the first Indian organization. It'll be great to connect, so do send in a message here. Right, let's move ahead. Couple of very important stories I read out to you from the first page: the new Parliament building, the lawsuits on Facebook, and also the HelpAge India winning this very important award. I would say the Facebook story is probably most important from this year's context. Right, there are a couple of these stories presented on the farmer protests. I don't want to go too much into these details. Bit of political news. There's a proposal by the NSUI, or the National Students Union of India. They have submitted a memorandum to the Ministry of Human Resource Development, urging the center to release the scholarships for the students. Many students are said to receive them, but they have not been received. It's been delayed. Thanks to the recent case of the girl from Lady Shri Ram College who committed suicide. So now there's a lot of awareness on this sort of, shall we say, the student disbursements on scholarships. So Delhi's air category did improve yesterday from very poor to merely poor category. The AQI was at 284. Gurugram was much better. In fact, there were light showers, so that's something which helped. Anything above 200 is poor. So Gurugram was at 217, so barely there. Thoda aur ho jayega, we will come to the satisfactory category. That's great. Ghaziabad, Faridabad, Noida, and Greater Noida, they all remained on the very poor category, but fortunately, none of them were at the severe category. I had told you earlier about the redevelopment of the New Delhi station. New Delhi station is one of India's busiest, as you may understand. So the LG of Delhi, the Lieutenant Governor, he is personally overseeing this development, Mr. Anil Baijal. And among the plans, you have signal-free routes for vehicular traffic, also pedestrian-friendly improvements, which are key components of this total project. Total around 4.5 lakh passengers is the daily footfall. Right. There's a report from some doctors from a medical this thing research that is from the Akash Healthcare, which is a private hospital. They have successfully treated what they call is breast cancer. And breast cancer, there's nothing new. But what's important here is that the doctors say that even men can have breast cancer, even so stage three male breast cancer that has actually been treated recently by the doctors here. The state of Rajasthan has come up with new with a boost to the farm supply chain. So there'll be changes in the post-harvest management project. So what happens is, while harvest may or may not be good, that's a separate point. But even on years, even on moment seasons that the harvest is very good, we often lose a lot of the food grains thanks to poor transportation. So that's why the post-harvest supply chain needs massive improvement. So the government of Rajasthan has, sanctioned a new fund to handle this thing. This has been confirmed by Shri Niranjan Arya, who's the chief secretary, which is one of the top bureaucratic positions in the state. 21 banks, that's a lot of them. They have been authorized to handle, to disburse loans regarding this particular plan. Now, moving on to the state of Assam, I had told you about the case. In fact, yesterday I was telling you about a particular wildlife sanctuary called Povitra Wildlife Sanctuary, which is in the Dibrugarh district, Pobitora Wildlife Sanctuary in the Dibrugarh district. Pobitora is known as mini Kaziranga. It is not as big or as prominent as Kaziranga, but still a very important reserve for wildlife, including the famous rhinoceros. Rhinoceros, you are probably aware, is especially the one-horned rhinoceros. That is the most well-known animal found in the Kaziranga forest. So उसके बारे में थोड़ी सी बात है. This is actually located around 50 kilometers east of Guwahati. And yesterday I was telling you about this case of a couple of rhinos who died, and veterinary doctors have given the reason that they are not getting nutritious grasses. Why aren't they getting nutritious grasses? Because of the change in the river course and due to lesser flooding, lesser flooding in that region, natural flooding which is needed, the nutrients deposited on soil has gone down. Also, the regeneration of grasses has been slow. So they're not getting the right kind of quality. They're having to dig deep to get grass, and so deep you have worms there. And why are they having to dig so deep? One of them is the river thing. Also, because for 100 odd rhinos in that area, there are 10,000 domestic cattle who are grazing away. Domestic cattle, because it's a wildlife sanctuary, so domestic cattle are allowed on the periphery, on the buffer zone. They're not allowed within the core. In a national park, they're not even allowed at the buffer, but here they are allowed at the buffer. So 10,000 cattle in competition, so they are taking away huge amount of the grasses. Rhinos are not getting their due. Today, another thing has happened is we've been speaking about vaccine for a while now, for the last couple of months, due to the COVID-19 cases. But there's also a vaccine available for anthrax. Anthrax is a major killer of animals. We've had outbreaks several times in the past in India and abroad. In fact, I think very recently the United Kingdom had this anthrax outbreak. So there is this fear anthrax. So recently, two buffaloes died and two elephants died thanks to anthrax. Anthrax spores, they can actually stay alive underground for 25 to 30 years. So recently, some elephants were spotted. They One of them, the elephants, was only 10 years old. The other was 20, around 20. Elephants, like humans, they can live long. They can live up to 70, 80 years old. So unlike, say, dogs or cows or horses. So, elephants do live for a long time. So these two elephants, they were actually digging this ground to receive salt. They often extract salt for their consumption. During this process, they happen to ingest these spores, and that is the reason these two elephants died. Also, two domestic water buffaloes died. So there is now going to be this plan to vaccinate as many buffaloes as possible, domestic buffaloes as possible. There is a readily available vaccine against anthrax. So the medical practitioners, the veterinarians, and the local authorities, they will need to work out a system to vaccinate the water buffalo population. Do write something, whoever that is that has joined this class. I can see you still there. Will be great if you do that. And if you have any questions, I'll be extremely happy to answer them. Right, so this is the first target, that is domestic buffaloes, but after that there's a Joypur forest division within Pobitora. That is where you have the large elephant population. So there is this plan to vaccinate as many elephants as possible. Also, a lot of the forest departments, they have helicopters, so they can actually drop these vaccines from a helicopter as well, or people will have to do it on the ground. That will be much riskier, but I guess it has to be done. A lot of these workers, they do manage. Right, let's continue. Maharashtra continues its trend with a reduction in the active cases. There were about 5,000 recoveries of COVID-19 yesterday. In Maharashtra, from tomorrow, December 12th, that is, the health minister Sri Rajesh Tope, he's from the NCP. Yeah, he's from the NCP, or he's from the Mahavikas Aghadi, which is a three-legged government, of course, having the NCP, Shiva Sena, and the Congress. So they are saying that some state-run hospitals from tomorrow will have free blood for patients. That is obviously quite an important thing. Meanwhile, the NFAI, which is the National Film Archive of India, they have recently procured a new 35-minute, almost a half an hour footage on older Pune. So this is something which preserves the culture, the earlier roads and infra of Pune. So this will really bring in a lot of cultural awareness about the great city. That's what the project managers speak about. Now, moving on to the editorial page, we have an article called Grain and Chaff, which talks about the farm laws in particular. And the idea in this article is that the center must implement its proposals before continuing talks with the farmers. So, while they should continue the talks, they must implement the proposals first, so that the people, they can see what the benefits are. Meanwhile, there's another article called True to Its Name, and here again there is praise for the government regulator, which is DCGI, which is the Drugs Controller General of India, which is the regulatory body for all kinds of medicines and drugs which are in use for medical practice in the country. The DCGI had been under pressure from, I won't call it pressure, but they had been applied for by the Serum Institute of India and Bharat Biotech for emergency use of the Covishield and the Covaxin, respectively, to patients who are under COVID, who have been infected with COVID-19. However, the DCGI says that we want more time, we want a greater sample, greater detail on the efficacy. So that's something the writer has praised the work, stating that this is something that the government, that the regulatory bodies should do. They should, instead of looking at headlines and headline hunting, they must be cautious and ensure that the results are managed, rather than you know simply going along. Right? Okay. Now, there's an article on Iran's calculated risk. The idea being that Iran is taking a risk, but a calculated one, regarding its nuclear program. Iran counts on the fact that Joe Biden will be little bit more prone to dialogue than Donald Trump was. Donald Trump wasn't open at all to dialogue with Iran. So the idea now that Joe Biden will soon take over the presidency of the US, he will be in charge. Yeah, so there's also P51 nations is meet. P5 are the five permanent members of the UN Security Council, which is China, USA, Germany, France, United Kingdom, and Russia. P5 plus one includes Germany as the sixth member. They had an agreement with Iran in 2015 to scuttle the country's nuclear program, and Barack Obama's administration was trying hard for that to happen. Donald Trump continued on that, but even more aggressively. There is also the talk about Israel's motives and why would Israel go to the extent of killing the nuclear scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. So that is what Iran is basically concerned about. So Iran is still going ahead, forging ahead without concerns for the this thing for the shall we say any possible future actions. They're counting on Joe Biden to be friendlier or at least being able to negotiate with them. There's an article on IT project managers whether they're facing an existential crisis. So this article talks about how in the present agile business working methods, what is happening is a lot of people who are trained in technology, then they went into a career in management. They are now struggling because of the huge demands that technology is spewing up. The earlier idea was technology and then management. A manager, middle level manager, would be able to manage a team of technical grads very well because that person will have minimum knowledge of technology but will also know management. But that is changing now. You need greater knowledge of technology now. That couple of years of experience or education may not do. The reason is a lot of the clients, they now prefer to work with senior code writers rather than the middle management project managers. So project managers are facing something of an existential crisis. They need to reskill themselves in order to be shall we say, they need to learn more coding, and they also need to reskill themselves and work as per agile methodology in order to survive in the present era. So the same person can transition. We haven't seen a flurry of job losses, job cuts of project managers or scrum managers. This was predicted, but that has not happened, not even during the pandemic. Which is why there is still time. Companies should also try retraining and reskilling their middle level managers towards more technology centric tasks. Just give me a moment. I received an important message, so I'll just. Right. Fair enough. So this article, the main debate, it's not exactly a debate. Both of them are speaking similar stuff. One of them is Mr. Srini Srinivasan, who's the managing director of PMI South Asia. The other is Mr. R. Sri Krishna, who's the CEO and executive director of Hcl Technologies. Um, there's also an article on the new educational pedagogy as part of the national education policy, which has come up. This is written by Mr. Krishna Kumar, who's a regular contributor to the Hindu. He's a former director of the NCERT, or National Council of Educational Research and Training. We've all gone through NCERT books, I'm sure, when we were kids. So, Mr. Krishna Kumar, he's basically speaking about um, right. So, Mr. Krishna Kumar here has spoken about the different ways in which pedagogical spaces will need to be worked out. There is a lot of crises in the pedagogy, in the sense that, especially with the COVID-19 crisis, virtual teaching has been a massive challenge, especially among the junior kids, especially in the Montessori segment. So that is where a lot of changes are needed. Many people, many companies have adjusted. He feels that more work needs to be done. This idea of teaching students coding and analytical skills and technical skills at an early age, he feels is good, but then again that adds greater pressure among the students. The pandemic has further forced in more pressures. There is now no safety net for children. There is also a lot of deceptive vocabulary which is used, uh, things such as analytical skills, critical inquiry, 21st century skills. A lot of this is deceptive, he feels. This takes away the focus from social learning, which kids do in physical spaces. So he says that let a 7-year-old experience the joy of designing an app, although the logic can be taught later. This is not something he agrees with. He says that this is something which a lot of the sellers of products are saying, but he does not agree as an expert. There's also massive fascinations with precocity. This is something we've seen in other countries. Right. So he also feels that while digital learning can be beneficial for the older kids, the youngest of them should not be exposed at too early an age. And this is something he's in line with what has happened in China, Japan, and the European countries as well. They have also followed a similar path. So there's a lot of facetious advice which is coming out. He feels that these fantasy apps, for example, they are. Sometimes a lot of the children, they are a lot of the parents, they are fascinated by the fact that they teach their children real life problems, that may not be the case, the writer argues. And finally, from the editorial page, there's the last article on politics. So this time the politics is about the newspaper today. It's just falling from my lap all the time. So this is about the state of Telangana and how politics in that state seems to have transformed in the wake of the recent municipal elections. So if we look at Telangana in 2014, it became India's 29th state. So when this new state was created, there was initially a lot of buzz, and and there was a lot of talk that Telangana, there's a lot of the what we call the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb which is present there, of peace among the communities, and also the fact that a lot of the drive for an independent Telangana was based on agrarian crisis, a feeling of injustice by the United Andhra, of also a lot of the backward communities, socially backward communities on the caste lines, which a lot of the OBC and SC groups, many of them aligned with the left ideology in order to have this thing. So TRS, the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, was very powerful. They swept the election in 2019. However, things started changing because after winning, sorry, 2018 Vidhan Sabha, I meant. After winning, TRS presented a highly centralized government where they started dismantling the opposition completely. So, as many as 12 Congress MLAs and also I think the lone TDP MLA, they were all poached, they all defected. That meant that the opposition space was completely destroyed. That gave fertile ground for the BJP to enter. In fact, the Telugu Desam party, which was a very big party in undivided Andhra, now of course it was depleted because it's not in power anymore in Andhra, and Telangana has been lost anyway as a state. So a lot of the TDP strong members, they moved to the BJP. So BJP has now the AIMM leader, Mr. Owaisi, believes that BJP's success in the recent municipal polls in Hyderabad was just a one off. It will not reflect on the state elections in 2023. However, the writer argues that may not be the case. The BJP will emerge as a significant challenger, maybe even in 2023 against the TRS. They might even go on to win it, but at least they will be the biggest challenger. That is the BJP. They won only one Vidhan Sabha seat last time, but won four Lok Sabha seats, and then recently also won the Dubbakka by-poll. One of the Lok Sabha seats was won against the daughter of the present chief minister, his daughter, Miss K. Kavita. So she was the sitting MP as well from that particular seat. So that is where the plot becomes really interesting. So a family-run political party once again facing challenges from the BJP. So nothing too surprising. We've seen these happen in various states. This article written by Mr. Ajay, Professor Ajay Gudavarti, who is an associate professor at the Center for Political Studies, part of the Jawaharlal Nehru University or JNU. Moving ahead, some more of the local pages, and I was telling you about the local body elections in Kerala. Yesterday saw the phase 2. The phase 3 is on 13th, and the counting is on the 16th. So I told you there are 5 districts of Kerala which have gone to the polls. Kottayam, but yesterday saw 5 more, which is Kottayam, Ernakulam, Thrissur, Palakkad, and Wayanad. So the turnout has been really good at 76.38%. Um, and in fact, Palakkad saw the highest at 79 point. Wayanad saw the highest at 79.46%. A lot of these are directly competition between the Congress and the left Congress-led UDF versus the CPIM-left LDF. That is pretty much the contest. Although the BJP is also strong in several areas, such as Thiruvananthapuram, where the last, which was part of the first phase of the polls. Right. Okay. Let's move ahead. I was telling you about this mysterious illness in the state of Andhra Pradesh, especially in the town of Eluru. That seems to have continued. I mean, 13 more people have been detected with this mystery illness. There was a team which came especially from AIMS Hospital in Delhi to retrieve the samples to study them. They have not yet given a proper report. So let's just see how things work on that. A new scheme has been launched in the state of Andhra Pradesh called Jagananna Jiva Kranti, launched by the Chief Minister Sri Jagan Mohan Reddy. This is basically for animal husbandry. So about 2.5 lakh sheep and goats will be distributed to women only in a phased manner. The total cost of the project will be almost 2000 crore. It stands at 1869 crore. The scheme seeks to improve the living standards of women with less investment. Goats and sheep, the investment is lesser than say on a cow or a buffalo, but the results can be massive. So they're just talking about these things. Right, Jammu and Kashmir also having its local elections, the District Development Council. So yesterday saw 37 district go to the polls, and this saw a fairly decent turnout at 51%, which is reasonably good for Jammu and Kashmir. So the Jammu division saw 66.67% voting, while Kashmir saw merely 33.57 percent voting. Within Kashmir, it is Bandipora which saw the highest at 56.4%. Uh, while in South Kashmir it was the lowest. Pulwama saw only 8.1%, while Shopian saw 5.52%. This thing in the Poonch district, there was a very high turnout at 71.64%. Doda, Rajouri, and Rajouri also did well. Even the division with the lowest turnout in Jammu is the Jammu district itself at 60.24%. Still very high. That's still high, almost. It's still higher than the highest in Kashmir of Bandipora. So, so there was a lot of talk regarding Miss Sonia Gandhi to be replaced as the head of the UPA chief, which is the United Progressive Alliance. In fact, because she is aging, there was talk of the NCP chief, Mr. Sharad Pawar, being the replacement. But that has now been this rumor has been dismissed by both the Congress and the NCP. So at this point, none of that is and nothing of that is taking place. Right. Let's move ahead further then. Daily cases in Delhi is falling for sure. Right. Rajnath Singh, the Defense Minister of India, he says there should be greater dialogue between India and the ASEAN countries. There was recently the 14th ASEAN Defense Ministers' meeting, or the ADMM, which also included China. It was organized by Vietnam. and he spoke about greater dialogue between India and China, but also the other countries of this region. He also spoke about having respect to the UN Convention, which is the UN CLOS, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. This is something he feels might have been violated at various times, especially by China, which China has been rather aggressive on the seas as well, not just on land, but on seas as well, regarding a lot of the islands, especially on the South China Sea, but also on parts of the Indian Ocean. Right. From this page, before I go to the international page, there's something really interesting which I want to discuss, and I think that applies a lot to myself, a lot of you as well, maybe. So the article is about Netflix and the kind of impact Netflix has made on the lives of people in 2020, thanks to the various lockdowns, thanks to the limited lockdowns, and the fact that so many people have stayed indoors for much of this year. Netflix has seen, and I'm sure the other OTT platforms as well, but Netflix has seen a tremendous rise in viewership. In fact, 80%. Earlier, a lot of people used to take subscription but not use it much. I remember I had a shared account with my sister a few years back, but I don't think I turned it on much. I mean, there wasn't much need. I used to visit the theaters often. I used to watch TV. But this year, there has been 80% of the users have used it at some stage. Now, that is a very high figure. पहले क्या होता था? People would have an account but not use it regularly. This year, 80% have been users. Monica Shergill, who is the vice president of content for Netflix India, she spoke about some of the most popular shows this year. Some of them included Raat Akeli Hai, proved to be the most popular film. Also, Extraction, Malang, and The Old Guard. These were some of the most popular films. Ludo has been number one among the comedies. There are other regional films as well. There's a Telugu film. Um, I don't think I'll be able to pronounce it. Ala Vaikuntapura Mullu. I'm sorry if I haven't pronounced it right. Kannam Kannam Kolayadithal, which is in Tamil, Kapela in Malayalam, and Uma Maheshwara Ugra Rupasya, which is in Telugu. These are also in Telugu. These are also among the top 10 movies. There was a 250% rise in viewership in 2020 as opposed to the previous year in 2019. So the world of non-fiction series and documentaries grew massively this year. Among the documentaries, Too Hard to Handle, Indian Matchmaking, and also the recently released one, which is Fabulous Lives of Bollywood Wives. This has been really popular. There's something called docu-series, usme Bad Boy Billionaires. This grew by more than 100%. So Bad Boy Billionaires, Social Dilemma, Money Heist. These were also some of the most popular ones. In romance, there was Love Ajkal, Ginny Weds, Sunny, and Mismatched. Among foreign languages, the German, Spanish, and Turkish series have done very well. The German series Dark was in the top 10 for 95 consecutive days. The Spanish series Money Heist, which released its fourth edition this year, was in the top 10 for 170 consecutive days, 170 days in total. Also, the Turkish series Protector has been in the top 10 at various times. Kids titles' viewership also grew by more than 100% in 2020. So this has been a great year, no doubt, for Netflix and the other OTT platforms. The coming Sunday is actually the deadline for the Brexit talks. If it doesn't work out on Sunday, it'll be a complete no deal Brexit, which means that it'll be a complete exit for the United Kingdom. The Foreign Secretary, Mr. Dominic Raab, he's the one who will be having a meeting with Ursula von der Leyen, who is the European Union President, the European Commission. It'll also have Mr. Boris Johnson, of course, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Um, Now, there is one really interesting story today. We've been speaking about normalization of relationships, the Abraham Accords. I'm sure you guys are aware of the Abraham Accords, where several Arab speaking Muslim countries have normalized ties with Israel after years of strife. So, the United Arab Emirates was the first, Bahrain the second, Sudan has very recently become the third. Oman was expected to be the fourth, but before Oman could do, Morocco has already done that. In fact, Oman will also soon do, while Saudi Arabia has normalized aviation ties. In the past, Jordan and Egypt had also normalized ties. So now Morocco becomes the fourth this year and sixth overall Arabic country to normalize ties with Israel. This is going to be another very big step. While Oman is taking a bit of time, Morocco has just stepped in. And in fact, Morocco has maintained somewhat liaison offices since the 90s, but then in 2000s they closed. They've already started with aviation, which is like you can have Israeli, planes flying over Morocco. So that is something that has taken place. Uh, until recently, we were suggesting that Turkey was covertly supporting Azerbaijan in the fight against Armenia, while Russia was doing likewise with Armenia. But now it seems it's no longer covert. Turkey's president, Mr. Erdogan, has openly hailed Azerbaijan's victory. He recently visited the capital, Baku, capital of Azerbaijan, and he has openly celebrated and glorified the Azerbaijan victory over Armenia. Just want to check the charge कितना बाकी है. Okay, it's 25%. That should do for a while, but थोड़ा सा मुश्किल हो जाएगा. Anyway, I can see three people are now watching. That's great to know. So do write something. It'll be great to connect, guys. Please do write something here. Will be really good. Israel is also opening up a new palace, the Herod's Palace, which is a historical building. Herod was one of the kings, considered a very wise king, also very rich king in the Bible and a lot of the other uh, ancient religious and not so religious texts. So, but this is being redesigned. There will also be a private theater next to it. So, a Herodium fortress that will be known as will be opened on an aerial view was released on the 20th of November, but now things will be sort of more formalized. It will soon be fully released for the public viewership. So this goes in line with sort of celebrating the ancient Jewish heritage of the region once again. I'll go to the sports page. There are quite a few important stories from the sports page, but first, just the business page. This is the second last topic of the day. So, starting with the business page, there is the finance minister, Miss Nirmala Sitaraman. She has confirmed that dues worth 21,000 crore they were due to the MSMEs. They have now been paid. MSMEs, as in micro, small, and medium enterprises. So the government or the finance ministry has facilitated this transfer. It's not done by the FM per se, but the FM has acted as an intermediary in this. Indian Oil Corporation, meanwhile, the IOCL, they have confirmed that they are back all its nine refineries and plants. They are now working at 100% capacity. This is the first time since February this year that the plants are running at a full 100% capacity. That does mean that economic revival, I think it has begun. It is on the, it is definitely solidifying. Though, of course, an oil refinery running means pollution. So, we did make a lot of celebration at the start of the lockdown about how much pollution has been curbed. uh, it seems those good days may not last for too long, so this will lead to more emissions being released, no doubt. Anyway, right now, of course, the economy is a very important thing. So, and in fact, talking of the economy, the ADB, or the Asian Development Bank, headquartered in Manila, Philippines, they had spoken about India's economy contracting by around 9%. But this year, very recently they have reduced it to 8%. The previous quarter saw 7.5 contraction, which, albeit embarrassing, it is less than the 23.5, 23.9, which was in the June ending quarter. So now they have slashed the uh, this thing at 8% only. And in fact, the inflation has been capped at 5.8%. ADB says that India is recovering at a faster than expected pace. Mahindra and Mahindra has also confirmed that production and sales volume might drop in the quarter four at its auto unit. That's because the demand has not been very high, so they will not be doing too much of production. Also, the company is working closely with Bosch and assessing the production qualities, because Bosch is one of the leading suppliers of parts to Mahindra and Mahindra. Bosch, of course, is a German company. It's an auto component supplier and a key supplier, because automobile, it's a assembly line industry. So without a proper supply chain, the final production will also suffer. That is why this is being talked about so much. Tanishq, which is of course part of the Tata Group, it's a jewelry retail company. They have in a statement released that their demand, while of course it has been hit this year, the hit has been less in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And so the company says that, in fact, Mr. Vijesh Ranjan, who heads the retail unit, he says that the decision which was taken a few years back to expand towards tier 2 and tier 3 cities, this has been a grand success. Recently, the 100th store was opened in Chennai, not Chennai's 100th, overall the company's 100th store. It's also the 10th store in the city of Chennai. There'll be 5 to 7 more stores opened this year in different parts of the country. The expansion will be over the next 15 months. Although initially they had planned it over 12 months, but now in the new economic scenario, all of this may not be possible in a mere 12 months. So it will be done over a period of 15 months. Right. There is more discussion on the Cyrus Mistry and Tata Sons, sort of spar. HCL, meanwhile, HCL Technologies, one of India's largest tech companies, they have already announced that they're going to expand to Vietnam. There'll be an HCL Vietnam Company Limited, which will be set up in Hanoi. Um, Mrs. Bector's Food, that's a food and beverages company. They will they will soon be having an IPO worth 540 crore rupees. So some institutional buyers have already been identified for the same. One of the world's largest supply chain companies, Maersk, which it's actually a leading shipping company based in Sweden. They say that India's trade has a containerized trade, as in trade which is part of their various containers. It has actually shrunk by 8% in the third quarter. Third quarter is the one which will end in December. The only reason which has seen some sort of stability is apparel. Apparel has somewhat boosted the exports, but there has been a massive demand shock from different countries in the world which usually import from India. This does not add up well, this particular fact. I was telling you about the Tata Sons conflict. Similarly, there is conflict at the automobile company TVS as well. I told you yesterday how one of the elder daughter of the family, she is accusing the rearrangement as something that will only favor men and her brothers, the sons of the Mr. Murugappa. Something similar is also the there is this conflict in the TVS group as well. So TVS group has decided to enter into a formal family arrangement. This is separate to the Murugappa group. I stand corrected. That was a mistake by me. This is simply an arrangement which they have come up with. So kindly take care of that. Okay, anyway, finally I'm going to move to the sports pages. And right, just before moving to the sports page, one last news from the business page. Larsen and Toubro, there's an arm of L&T known as the L&T Technology Services Limited, or LTTS. They have won a $100 million deal from an oil firm, a US based oil firm, to develop their oil and major gas supply chain. The entire construction will now be built by L&T, mainly in the US. Right. Finally, moving into the sports pages, and this has been a shocking year for a legendary footballers have passed away, like Diego Maradona, of course. There's Jack Charlton. There is Nobby Stiles. Um, Also one of the great goalkeepers of England. I'm forgetting his name. So similarly, another legend from the game of football, Paolo Rossi, has passed away yesterday. Paolo Rossi's career, I'll just give you in brief. 1980, he was actually suspended from football due to some allegations of match fixing. He did not play for the next 2 years, but 1982 he came back to professional football just in time for the World Cup. He was 26 years old and thus at the peak of his career, and he was the hero for Italy's unlikely victory. Brazil had entered this competition as hot favorites under the coach leadership of Telly Santana, who was the coach, and they had some top players like Zico and Socrates, but Italy shocked them in the round of 16. Italy came through with a very defensive unit, but Paolo Rossi, towards the end of its goals, the manager in this tournament was Enzo Bearzot. They had Ugo Gentile at the back, fiery center back. They also had the goalkeeper Dino Zoff, one of the longest serving goalkeepers. So, but the hero was Paulo Rossi. He even scored a hat trick against Brazil. He also scored both the goals in the semi final against Poland and scored the opener in the final victory against Germany. 1982 World Cup was played, of course, in Spain. Mm, he actually holds the Italian record for 9 goals scored in a World Cup, which puts him at par with Roberto Baggio and Christian Vieri. Played a lot of games for Juventus, the Italian giants. Even played in the 1978 World Cup, where Italy was semi-finalists. Won 2 league titles with Juventus and Juventus's first ever European Cup in 1985. Juventus has long been considered one of the great underachievers of European football because of the fact that while they have dominated their domestic league like anything, they have not been able to translate that domestic success into a continental success. 1985 was the first time they won the European title. This was in an infamous final held in Brussels, where 39 Italian fans died, Juventus fans, in a game against Liverpool due to rioting. So after that match, Liverpool was banned from European football for 5 years. But not just Liverpool, in fact, all English clubs were then banned from European football for a duration of the next 5 years. So that was again a very important match that he participated in. I'll just connect the laptop charger and then continue with the class. Just give me a moment, please. Right. I hope you guys are able to watch me. That was again a very important match that he participated in. I'll just connect the laptop charger and then continue with the class. Just give me a moment, please. Right. Let's continue then. Okay. Australian cricket team has confirmed that Steve Smith could be back as the captain. The MCG, or the Melbourne Cricket Ground, initially had a cap of 25,000 fans, spectators, due to the social distancing norms, but they've now increased it to 30,000 for the Boxing Day Test match, which begins on 26th of December. Virat Kohli, India's captain, has confirmed that India needs the fittest 11 on the park. It doesn't matter how good the players are technically, of course, that matters, but fitness levels also do matter. Right. The first international cricket in India in 11 months has been confirmed for the month of February. Due to the restrictions on travel, only three stadiums will host all the matches against England, which includes four test matches, three one day internationals, and three T20 games. So, among the test matches, the first two will both be held in Chennai, while the third and fourth, including one of them is a day night game, which is the third one, which is completely day night, both of them will be held in Ahmedabad. So first and two in Chennai, the third and fourth both in Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad will also host all the three T20 internationals, while all the one day internationals will be held in Pune. This decision to hold only in three cities has been taken due to the distancing norms and the fact that players will play in what is called a bio bubble. So a few cities will be designated for the games. East Bengal Football Club, which is playing in the ISL, of course, this year. Now with the ISL and the I League merged, they have earned their first point with a draw against the Jamshedpur team. Uh, Kane Williamson, who was man of the match in the first test match against West Indies, scoring a 250, he will miss the second test match because, like Virat Kohli, he is also an expectant father. His wife is set to give birth. Um, So, in fact, the goalkeeper, BJ Watling, who actually missed the first test match, the wicketkeeper, he will return to the team. What would have happened under other circumstances is that the opener, Will Young, who actually replaced Watling and opened in the first test match, he will continue in the team now that Williamson will not be playing. Lewis Hamilton, who has been confirmed positive for COVID-19, he will return for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which is going to be the last um, race of the year. And finally, I want to talk about the. Okay, I was telling you about Parthiv Patel's retirement. Parthiv Patel, the wicketkeeper who's played for India, he is now going to join the Mumbai Indians IPL team as its talent scout. Talent scout in charge of getting all the talent from the different teams. Finally, I want to talk about the last day of the UEFA Champions League first round this year. UEFA Champions League, it's Europe's premier club football tournament comprising 32 teams divided into 8 groups of 4 teams each. Each team plays the other twice on a home and away basis, so each team ends up playing 6 matches. The top two from each group qualifies for the second round. From the second round onwards, it's straight knockout, two-legged knockouts. Um, the third best team goes to the Europa League. The fourth in every group drops out of European competition completely. The games will return in February. So yesterday I read out to you the last day's results of the first round of 4 of the groups. Today I'm going to tell you about the other 4 groups. So one of the most important matches involved Real Madrid because Real Madrid, after many years, were in danger of missing out in the first round itself. It would have been an absolute game changer, but that has not happened. Fortunately for its fans and fans neutrally of football, because we need Real Madrid. It's one of the giants of the game. I'll just give you a complete roundup of the matches. Okay, so first of all, in Group A, Bayern Munich ended their campaign unbeaten. They defeated Lokomotiv Moscow, the Russian club, 2-0 with goals from Niklas Sula, who had missed a lot of matches last season to an injury. He's back. And Eric Choupo-Moting, Maxime Choupo-Moting, who's from Cameroon, I think he scored the other goal. Red Bull Salzburg, which is the champion team from Austria, they lost at home 2-0 to Atletico Madrid, for whom one of the goals was scored by the Belgian winger Yannick Carrasco. So both Bayern and Atletico, they have qualified. Group B, Inter Milan could only draw 0-0 with Shakhtar Donetsk. Inter thus blew its chance of qualifying. Borussia Mönchengladbach, the German club, lost away 2-0 to Real Madrid, both the goals scored by the French evergreen striker Karim Benzema. So Real Madrid qualifies along with Mönchengladbach. Group C, Olympiacos The Greek champions lost 2-0 at home to FC Porto, who have qualified. Manchester City already qualified its group winners, ended their group with a 3-0 victory over Olympic Marseille, with goals from Ferran Torres, Sergio Aguero, and Raheem Sterling. Sergio Aguero missed a lot of matches earlier this season with injury. He needs game time. He's back and back among the goals. Man City and Porto both qualified. Group D, Ajax lost to Atalanta 1-0. Luis Muriel scoring the only goal, while the Danish club Midtjylland could only draw 1-all with Liverpool, for whom Mohamed Salah did score a goal. So Liverpool and Atalanta have qualified from this group. And Group H, one game was remaining because the game between PSG and Basakeshir, that had been postponed due to some racism issues, and the players walked off. But PSG has now won the game 5-1. For PSG, Neymar scoring a treble, a hat trick, while his fellow top striker, the Frenchman Kylian Mbappe, scored two goals, including one from the penalty spot. So that is pretty much it. I'll read out to you the list of the qualified teams. The five winners, the eight winners of the groups, they cannot play each other. In the second round, each winner will play some runner-up, not from the same group, not from the same country. That is the consideration. So let's just see. The who are the group winners? Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Borussia Dortmund, Juventus, and PSG. So three English clubs. The runners-up: Atletico Madrid, Borussia Mönchengladbach, FC Porto, BC Atalanta, Sevilla, SS Lazio, Barcelona, and RB Leipzig. So fair distribution among the big five countries, the five big countries, which is England, France, Spain, Italy, and Germany, pretty much dominating this round. I don't think there's any club from outside these five countries. Let me just see. Yes, just like last year. Last year was the first time ever this anomaly took place. And okay, there's one club from Portugal, FC Porto. So thank God for them. At least there's one club from outside the so-called Big Five countries. There was also the last round of the Europa League matches last night. So tomorrow I may not hold a newspaper session. I'm not sure. I'll need to plan this out. But as of now, all I can say is Tottenham Hotspur has won its last game 2-0 against Royal Antwerp. So they got their revenge for having lost the previous game. Carlos Vinicius, the Brazilian striker, continues scoring goals, scoring yet another goal last night. And the Argentinian playmaker Giovanni Lo Celso also did score one goal. Right, Manchester United, of course, now the biggest club to drop into the Europa League from the Champions League, so that should be some competition. Inter Milan as well, that's another massive club dropping into the Europa League. Inter Milan's made it a habit almost every year. It happens United as well, happens fairly often. Right, so that's pretty much it. I am done with today's newspaper. I'll keep the session open for a couple of minutes. You guys may ask any questions in case you have. I'll also share with you my code. Please do not forget to like the session, subscribe to it, comment on the comments box, and do share it with your friends and family as much as possible. Right, so this is my code AD09. I had already shared with you, repeating it again. Do make as much use of it. I'm just gonna get some water for myself. You guys, please keep all the questions coming in. Right, it's all yours. The comments box. Do make as much use of it as you want. Done with today's newspaper. I'll keep the session open for a couple of minutes. Yeah, do feel free to ask whatever questions you guys may have. as much as possible. Right, so this is my code AD09. I had already shared with you, repeating it again. Do make as much use of it. Right, let me just check out. Okay, I think we can wrap it up now. So wonderful interacting with all of you guys. Let's wrap it up for the day. Thank you so much, guys. Wonderful interacting with all of you. So see you all very soon. And do watch out for the special classes as well. Do subscribe to my sessions there. Thank you once again.